Hello, hello, and welcome. It's Bernadette. See if we can get this stream going live. And here we go. It's very interesting. We are on Instagram for the very first time. So I'm going to give you just a second to get here. We're talking all about how the ego shapes your choices and what you can do about it. If you've never watched me before, I'm Bernadette Gold, certified high performance coach. I'm an intuitive, and I help you dive deep into what's holding you back to get you moving forward so that you can achieve what you want in your life, a life of purpose, joy, compassion, love, fulfillment, all the good stuff. So say hello if you are here and watching us live. Like I said, we're going live on Facebook, Instagram for the very first time through StreamYard. We're on YouTube, we're in our group, we're all over the place. So I'd love to see who's here. Say hello in the comments and let me know that you're here. So we're going to dive in to the ego stuff, my specialty, all things ego, right? So let's talk about what the ego first. A lot of people think that the ego is just, pride and arrogance. And it's so imperative that we address the ego, because if you're walking in a state of fear, of state of doubt, you're walking in ego. When you second guess yourself, you're walking in ego. When you're in fear and worry and anxiety, you're in ego. You're not in your highest self. You're not walking in love. Fear is the opposite vibration and energy of love. And when you're in a place of love, you have peace, you have calm. It's very neutral. You're not feeling worried, right? You can think clearly. But with ego, we start getting into all kinds of barriers. So the very first trap that we fall into when we're in ego is the trap of confirmation biases. And what that is when we have a certain way that we believe, certain things that we think, we look for things that are going to confirm that, because the ego loves to be right. You know what I mean? Ego loves to have confirmation. So when it comes to falling into that trap of looking for confirmation, it's the things that we do where we either selectively seek out certain information and we ignore other information that could be very helpful to us, or we interpret things in a way that backs up our belief system, right? Even if that belief system's limiting and harmful, that's what we end up doing. And when we're in that place of looking for confirmation to our existing belief systems, we miss out on so much, right? We seek information and advice from other people. We go looking for what other people tell us to do. And this shows up, I mean, most of you know this, right? When you were young, you were probably told by your parents to get a certain job, go to school for a certain thing, and your life was determined by the right way to do things. So in the belief system where this is the right way, you're only going to look at those things. But then later in life, you start to feel like, I don't feel like myself anymore. Chances are you're walking in ego. And when you try to break out of the confines of ego, you can fall into the second trap, which is the fear of failure. And alongside the fear of failure comes paralysis, where you don't move forward, right? You don't take risks. You start to play it safe. You start to play it small. If you're doing that in your life, then chances are you're walking with blind spots caused by the ego. When you're in the fear of failure and you get into analysis paralysis, you're spinning around in your mind. It's so debilitating. And I know, because I'm an overthinker, like many of you. And when I let my ego run and I don't grab a hold of it, it will stop me from doing things, or it will take me down the path of research. I love this one where it's like, oh, but you don't know enough. That's the voice of the ego. That is not the voice of your higher self. Tell me if that resonates, if you've done that, where you're like, I don't know enough. I need to go research, and off to Google you go, right? Putting in all kinds of questions into Google. You jump down the rabbit hole, you study up, you buy a bunch of books, you listen to a bunch of podcasts. And by the end of it, You haven't gotten anything done. You haven't taken any action, right? You're not making any decisions. And any decisions you are making are being made by fear of failure, fear of being wrong, right? Fear of not being accepted. Those are all parts of decisions that we make from ego. It's really important that we recognize when we're in ego, when we're walking in our higher selves, because when you're walking in your higher self, you're happier. You feel aligned. Things work smoothly, right? You're not caught up in that dance of inaction. You're not caught up in that dance of comparing yourself to others, because that's one of the other traps. Looking for approval. Again, that's one of the biggest ones. And when people start to add their 2 cents, we start to doubt ourselves. And when two egos dance together, what do you think happens? A whole lot more ego, right? A whole lot more fear, a whole lot more limitation. Worst place that you can be. The final thing that I want to talk to you about that the ego snags us so subtly is it locks us into this place where we're resistant to change, resistant to feedback, resistant to seeing things in a new light, from a new perspective. No matter what information comes our way, we're just not having it. If you're resistant like that, chances are you're walking in ego, right? And I'm not here to call you all out on it. I'm just trying to help you. If you've been sitting there going, why am I circling around things? Why am I having such a hard time moving forward? If you're in that place of self-doubt, if you're in that place of a whole lot of mind chatter, then chances are your ego snagged you. It's not hard to get out of it. And one of our jobs on this planet as human beings is to overcome the power of the ego, to overcome the power of fear, and get back to homeostasis, where we're walking in balance, where we're walking in a place where we're living our lives from that place of self-love, love of others, non-judgment, completely detached, and we're trusting the wisdom that resides within us, trusting in our own decisions as well. It's very easy to get caught up in the traps of the ego. I see it all the time, and we become very self-critical when we're in ego. Tell me in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. If you find yourself getting really wrapped into, like, what's everybody gonna think? What if I fail? Right? So top 3 things. Let's go through them really quickly, and then I'll take your questions if you guys have any. Trap of confirmation bias, when you're looking to confirm things that you line up to your belief system. Walking in ego. Fear of failure and its paralysis. When you get into analysis paralysis, you're afraid of failing, you're trying to be perfect, you're trying to study up on everything, and you just end up wasting a whole lot of time. And then resistance to change, resistance to feedback, and new perspectives. Those are the 3 biggest traps of the ego when it comes to making decisions. So what can you do about it? First thing is to recognize when you are doing it, and then to shift out of it. You can use tools like EFT tapping. There's a bunch of free videos on YouTube by Nick Ortner. You can use that to tap your way through it, to release some of the anxiety. Journal. Journaling is the number 1 tool for getting clear. And to me, if we get our journals out and we dump all the things we're afraid of, all the things we're thinking, all the beliefs and limitations that's holding us back from taking action in our lives, from making decisions, it's amazing if you just spend time in your journal, at least 3 pages, just dumping out all of your fears, all of your worries, all of the pros and cons, get it on paper, and then turn on the last page and start to write about, well, what's possible? What if I succeed? Why did I want to make this decision? Why did I need to make this decision to begin with? It's amazing what starts to move for you, right? So EFT tapping, that will calm the energy down. Journal. That's the second thing I would say. And the last and final thing I would say is to work with a coach. Work with someone outside of you. Sometimes we need someone from the outside to see beyond the blind spots. One thing that the ego is great at is putting the blinders on, right? And the blinders show up as things like I'm confused. I can't get out of my head. I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I don't trust myself. That's how the ego shows up. So when you have someone come in from the outside that allows you to see things from a higher perspective, you do far better, right? If you want to work with someone, you can always come work with me. But it's very important that you get a hold of your ego. I've done plenty of videos on the difference between walking in spirit, walking in higher self, walking in ego, walking in love versus walking in fear. And that's literally what we're talking about. Are you in a place of love, joy, peace? That's all under the energy of love. Or are you walking in ego, which is fear, anxiety, worry, self-doubt, right? All of that. You've got to separate the two. And when you're walking in love, everything flows. Andrea's saying, thank you. We'll journal more. Ego makes me forget to be clear. And that's one of the things, like confusion. Anytime we're in confusion, typically we've kicked in, like the ego's taken full control. Full control. It's driving your vehicle called your life. And it's the quickest way to make bad decisions. And I'll share it with you guys. Like I'm still years later, and I've been at this personal development work in my own life for over 30 years, but I still kick in every now and then to ego. And recently, I started to listen to other people and take courses from other people, how you need to do this and how you need to do that. And even though at the heart of it, I don't feel good about doing things their way, I'm like, but they're the experts. This is how the conversation goes when it's ego. They know better. They've done better. They're the experts. And I'm not saying you should never learn from people. By no means am I saying that. But when everybody's doing exactly the same thing and you're trying to do it and it's not working for you, then you've got to kick into higher self. You've got to journal. You've got to pray. You've got to meditate. You've got to sit in silence. You've got to rely on what is at the heart of you. And this is the difference between operating in the head, where the ego loves to get your attention, operating in the heart, where you're coming from a place of higher perspective, higher love, commitment, passion, compassion, joy, empathy, all of those things. When you're coming from a place of love, you're not focused only on, the results. You're focusing on what's the impact of it. Is this positive or is this negative? And you pull the power right out of the ego when you start to ask the right questions. So absolutely journal, journal, journal. You guys have any other questions? I just wanted to pop on and share that with you. I wrote a post, posted it earlier. I sent out an email. It's been heavy on my heart to start to really share more and more about the ego. We work with that a lot in my Charm Life program when it comes to dealing with getting beyond your past issues, past traumas, limitations, blocks that doesn't allow you to create a life consciously and manifest things in your life in a way that flows. That's what we do in that program. But first, sometimes we have to heal the past. And a lot of times when the past has got its grip on you, past trauma, past event, something that keeps you in fear, if you don't deal with it and you pretend that it doesn't exist, you just bypass it, it's going to rear its ugly head and it will be operating in the background and you won't even know it. It's operating within your subconscious. And so much of what I do is help you to get conscious, to bring the subconscious programs that have been driving your life, bring it to consciousness. Once you have the awareness, which is one of the first steps, once you have the awareness, now you can do something about it. Now you can get your power back. I appreciate ego sucks one in. It does. And it's not something that goes away completely. It's something we literally have to battle, right? One of the things I teach is if you've read the Bible and you hear about Satan, and Kabbalah teaches, if you replace the word Satan in the Bible with the word ego, the Bible suddenly makes a whole lot of sense. Like Jesus was not out in the wilderness fighting a horned devil. He's fighting his own ego. Had to overcome the limitations that his ego put on him. So, all the time out in the wilderness and all the doubts, and then the devil took him to the ledge of the cliff and was like, as far as the eye can see can be yours, follow me. That's the ego saying, just focus on the material. You can have all of this. Forget about what happens with anybody else, right? Forget about what the impact is. No, no. Makes so much more sense when you replace that word. Then you start to understand the spiritual truths, the real coding that was in the Bible to help you gain power in your own life. What was his words? I give you a new commandment. And the new commandment is this: love one another as I have loved you, thus fulfill the law. And everything goes right with you. If you're in love, you fulfill all the commandments. And I'm not religious, so I'm not preaching to you. I'm coming from a spiritual perspective because those aspects, that was correct. We are here to learn to love, but we do have to love ourselves. We do have to love others. Fear is the opposite of love. The opposite. So anytime you're in that place of fear, you've dropped into ego. You've dropped into that place where you've given your power away. I want you to take your power back. So think about that tonight. I know that's pretty like, wait a minute. What is she talking about? If you've worked with me in Charm Life, like Andrea knows, she's heard me say this a million times. When we're working from the place of trying to achieve connection to our higher self, our true self, being our authentic self, connect to spirit and higher wisdom, universal wisdom, and we want things to flow, the precepts, these are the principles that we actually have to master. Sorry, I was reading this. The past just called done. Time to move on. Absolutely. Absolutely. But we can't let go of the past until we've actually closed the chapter. We have to process it. We can't ignore it or it will come back and bite us. I have clients that I'm working with right now that have experienced some really hard traumas in life, and it was never fully processed. And it will sneak up and get you, right? Our biases that we carry, how we view the world, the lens in which we view the world, most of the time has been created from the ego. And the ego has programs you learned from school, from your parents, from society. And so much of what we're going to have happen this year in 2024 is a shifting of perspective. A lot of people are going to be super resistant to these new perspectives and new paradigms that are coming in. You don't have to be. You can embrace them, trust them. You'll know if you learn how to operate from your heart. That is the most powerful place to live your life from authentically, is your heart, where it doesn't matter how other people approve, don't approve, like, don't like, right? So much more powerful to come from the place of being who you are, living from your strength. Business flows, money flows, health flows, everything flows. When you go off track and get out of alignment from that, problems start to arise. Almost went there this week, recognized it, raised my vibe, felt much better. I can control my reaction to things. Absolutely. And that's the power of getting control of it. So if you've got things that are locking down in your life, things that are causing your confusion, getting stuck in mental circling, getting stuck in that place of fear, don't know what move to make. Maybe you're just confused, right? And you haven't been living super intentionally or authentically. It's time. This is the time to get it right. I did a 2024 forecast. Y'all are welcome to go get it. The link is in my bio. And it is good for the entire year. You have access to it for the entire year. We went through all the major themes of the year, astrologically, things to watch out for. If you're an investor, it's got great information in there of what months and weeks to avoid, like dates to avoid investing, because we're going to have some interesting spikes that are going to cause some market fluctuations. We talked about what energies are hitting in different months. Generally speaking, we talked about the numerology, the power that's coming in. And then I went through for each of the elements, fire, water, earth, air, month by month, energies, the lessons, what you can do to amplify your life, what you can avoid. And it's only $40. It was 2 hours. We went like 30 minutes over. It's a whole entire 2-hour yearly forecast. I think it's one of the longer forecasts I've ever done. And it's super in depth. And here's a little hint for you. If you're a water sign, make the most of this year. You guys have some good things coming. Not saying that that's not true about all the signs. All of the signs actually have some good things coming. But when we can use elements of foreknowledge from the stars, right? Even the Bible says, like, there will be signs in the stars. Watch them. Like, when we can watch for certain energies and then rise above them. And that's always my point. Where do I need to rise above it? Where do I need to recognize this isn't just me? Right? How can I be of service during this time of great change? This year is a year of great change. Great change. We're not going to see the fulfillment of all of those changes for a couple of years, but big, big changes coming. And the most important thing that Spirit brought me back to when I was preparing for and when I delivered that yearly forecast was get back to the teaching of how to recognize the ego, how to overcome the ego, how to really, really help you guys make sure that that's not where your life is being directed from, because you will make wrong decisions and then you'll kick yourself and then you're stuck in that spinning thing, right? The mind circling thing. Trust is love based, fear is ego based. Let trust and love grow. Amen, sister. All good. All good. So I hope that helps. If you're watching the replay, make sure you put a comment in there. Please like the video, share the video, comment on the video, because then you're telling the Facebook algorithm and all the other places where I am that, yeah, this is helpful. I want to keep seeing this. And then they will actually show you my content because the algorithm, once again, has changed. So I need your engagement for these things too. And I want to know, what did you gain from this? Where did you pick up certain things that you're getting snagged on? Look, I don't care how perfect your life is, we all get snagged by the ego. So put in the comments, hashtag insight, and tell me what your insight was. Where are you getting snagged? And hopefully you use the tools I've given you to get yourself back on track. The quicker we can grab it and go, that's not the real me, that's the ego, that's fear, and then get back on track from that state of self-trust, from that state of self-love, from that state of being of service, all of a sudden new opportunities come and you get unstuck, right? Always how it works. I didn't make the rules, but that is how that works. So I wish you all the best. And I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. I'll be back later on in the week and let you guys know some other things that are coming up. Andrew's saying, kick the ego to the curb. I love that. Right? Absolutely. And then get back in your power. Stay in your power. Get in your power. If you feel like nobody's listening to you and you're constantly in conflict, chances are your ego is blinding you from how you're speaking, how you're showing up. And then the other person's ego is kicked in too. And when you got two egos, again, now you have explosive energy and the ego is just doing a dance from one ego to another. And this is my specialty. This is what I've been teaching for so many years. I want to help you too, because overcoming fear is not as hard as it seems. And a lot of times we do things out of fear and end up in burnout and then question, how did we get here? Always question the motivations underneath why you're doing what you're doing, why you're participating in things that you're participating in. Until next time, have a great, great night. I'll see you later.